Land supply. Presenters: 1 Osir Malik, 2 Abdul Waisay, 3 Abdul Rehman, 4 Muhammad Mahad, 5 Salah Ahmed, 6 Fanali, 7 Ibrahim Aziz. Contents: 1 What are the reasons for rising demand of land? 2 Increase in population. 3 Loss of arable land. 4 Global land per person. 5 Competition for land from biofuel. What are the reasons for rising demand of land? Increase in population. Loss of arable land. Competition for land from biofuel. Let's start with the first set of slides. Increase in population. The UN's projections are estimates based on assumptions. It also calculates that if, on average, there is just half a child less per family in the future than it has assumed, there will be 1 billion fewer of us by 2050 than it expects, and 4 billion fewer by the end of the century. Billions less mouths to feed, land to use and greenhouse gases to be produced. Some ways to decrease the population rate. We can bring birth rates down. Countries have had dramatic success in reducing their birth rates. Thailand, for instance, reduced its fertility rate by more than a third in just 2 generations with the targeted, creative and ethical family planning program. One less rich person helps slow the warming of the planet. Because consumption and greenhouse gas emissions are so much greater in the developed world, fewer people being born there has a far greater effect on global warming than many people not being born in poorer countries. Choosing a smaller family is the most effective way of cutting your carbon emissions. A study by the Universities of London, British Columbia in 2017 found that not having a child was 25 times more effective in reducing a person's carbon footprint than any other measure an individual in the developed world can take. Smaller families help countries escape poverty. Individuals, communities and nations can be trapped in a cycle of poverty by the need to provide for large numbers of children and a growing population. Marie Stopes International has calculated that with a 5% increase in the number of women with access to contraception, a small country in sub-Saharan Africa could expect an increase in GDP per capita of 35%. Loss of arable land. Population growth and changing consumption habits will create a considerable degree of additional demand which will place pressure on arable land resources. Arable land scarcity is the result of a range of human and climatic factors including degradation, climate change, soil constraints, urban encroachment and unequal land distribution. Reasons for loss of arable land. There currently remains some 2.7 billion hectares of land with potential for crop production in the world, concentrated in South and Central American and Sub-Saharan Africa. The solutions to addressing the availability of arable land are threefold: the production of more arable land, increase in the productive capacity of existing arable land and the conservation of arable land in order to prevent degradation. Global arable land per person. Despite more than an adequate supply of arable land to meet future demand, land availability will continue to be a major factor in meeting future food security, because of the need to find a balance between competing interests and uses and finite resources. According to the Global Land Assessment of Degradation, nearly 2 billion hectares worldwide has been degraded since the 1950s. These 2 billion hectares represent 22% of the world's cropland, pastures, forests and woodlands. In particular, Africa and Latin America have the highest proportion of degraded agricultural land. Asia has the largest proportion of degraded forest land, as revenue-poor national governments pursue lucrative policies of deforestation. Degradation is not the only reason for declining levels of arable land. There are a variety of climatic, environmental and human factors, all of which have an effect on available arable land resources. At present, some 12%, over 1.5 billion hectares, of the world's land surface is used in crop production. This area represents over a third, 36%, of the land estimated to be suitable for crop production to some degree. There remains some 2.7 billion hectares of land with potential for crop production. A picture is worth 1,000 words. Competition for land from biofuel. The potential global demand for biofuels and the implications of this for land use and its interaction with food agriculture is reviewed. It is expected that biofuels will form an important element of global transport energy mix over the next 40 years and beyond. Over this time, there will be a transition from so-called first-generation biofuels, based on commodity agricultural crops with food/feed uses, to advanced biofuels, sometimes called second and third-generation biofuels, based primarily upon lignocelluloses feedstocks. It remains unclear whether these advanced biofuels, based on lignocelluloses materials, will entirely replace first generation or if second generation will be supplemental to first generation. Thanks. Any questions?